Today's episode is on the ISI Bill 2025.
This is really a society. It's a learned society registered currently under a state government act.
Although Nehru created it, he let it be governed and gave it complete autonomy, and it was Mahalanobis who was completely in control of ISI. Nehru did not interfere.
So Mahalanobis, you may want to contact Russian scientists also. I know they are doing some good work. If you think that this institute is doing useful work for the government, then we have to fund this institute. And the amount of funding that we need to sustain this institute, we can't do that without this bill and declaring this institute an institute of national importance.
So the ISI Bill 2025 is changing the governance structure from what it is at the moment to something else.
The changes are basically throwing away the basic democratic structure.
It's an important thing. Have you done your homework properly for that? It is absolutely clear that they have not done that. I think it will be kind of foolish if we spend much time discussing the current version of the bill because it's so poorly drafted. I don't know who drafted it. Okay, it's full of errors, full of lack of understanding of the system. It's just like as if I just sit on my computer and type using MS Word, okay, no society, corporate body, and it becomes a corporate body. They think it's like a magic. I think that's what they need to focus on. Government is for doing the job of the government. They are not supposed to tell academic institutions how to run it because the government is not competent for that.
Also, since you quoted Tagore, we have to get out from these narrow nationalist boundaries. A mathematical theorem or a result in statistics is not just for India.
True.
It's for everybody.
Right.
Of course, there are properties acquired through government grants,
Right.
everything. But
Right.
once it is in the name of the institute, it's owned by the society.
I see.
Now, if you convert that into a different body, what happens to these properties? It's a vital issue. Whoever has drafted it
Right.
or whoever is behind this bill,
Sure.
I mean, in my opinion, is doing a great damage to the government.
Right. Right.
It's definitely doing a great damage to the institute, but doing a greater damage to the government.
A body corporate teaching students and a body corporate conducting research.
I don't know what that means. Body corporate conducting research. Okay. And are we going to be something like the research and development wing of a pharmaceutical company?
There are fields of research which do not generate immediate profit, then they will perhaps be then closed.
Do you really think a person who doesn't, who comes from a family which doesn't even own a small basti in Calcutta will be given a loan by whatever bank? Do you believe that? I don't. I don't. Because they always have collateral.
Sure.
Why can't we think of education like a hospital?
If you look at the student cohorts,
Coaching centers.
they go to coaching centers in particular. So people from the poorer backgrounds, they anyway have that competitive disadvantage there. So for them, then the course at ISI becomes essentially the last higher education that they can have.
We have been steadily increasing the number of students, by the way. I don't think anybody gave it more than a moment of thought in writing this. It is just it's written in a bureaucracy's language and has nothing more than that.
With the academic council changing, however it is going to change, do you think that the ISI admission process is going to change?
Students actually got train fare to come for the interview. Now that has been stopped and now interviews have been stopped.
That I think is a very inadequate information for me when somebody asks for a recommendation for a job. So I have apologized and I have declined, but that's not fair for the student.
If the IITs can take people in via a single exam, why is that exam not sufficient for ISI? Like, my point is, if it becomes a body corporate, then the time invested by each and every, employee of the institute will start getting connected, like counted in terms of money as well.
There, I think the people will be trained in the coaching centers who will do very better, much better than other students. And so many people will lose out because they cannot afford the tuition fees for the coaching centers.
Why do you think the ISI admission process was so unique?
So I think we tried to outguess the coaching system. Okay,
Sure.
because the coaching centers, basically teach you how to handle trick questions.
Right.
And so we tried all these experiments.
Right. Which was possible because ISI was autonomous in its academic council and it could do whatever it wanted to, right? Changing ISI in ways that will be more compliant to the national education policy of 2020.
See, Sanjay, till now our academic council was responsible for academics. We had that liberty. We were doing it regularly. So we upgraded our syllabus, our education style, our education methods. What I fear in the academic council, the new setup they have, although there'll be a bureaucrat who's so-called non-voting, the bureaucrat is not just there taking notes, minutes, but the bureaucrat can suggest something and then say that, okay, in NEP we have to teach Indian knowledge system. So this NEP may, I'm not sure, may tell us to do various things which are completely irrelevant. It's not relevant. They didn't have the decimal. Do we now go and teach our students how to write in the Roman numerals? We don't.
So you're saying that science has outgrown several of its predecessors.
I study history of science also.
I know.
So it was the Hitlerian idea, everything originated in Greece. Instead of saying that there were people all over the world doing things. Right. Okay, so this entire monogenesis of knowledge is something we moved out from, in the last 40, 50 years. Bernal and others have written a lot about this. Whenever I pick up a telephone, I don't say, thank you, Edison, do I?
When I will be teaching maybe statistics or problem, I will definitely use examples from mechanics for them. So, this academic freedom given to a good teacher is what is important.
Feels like, school-going children all wearing the same uniform.
It reminds me of a fascinating remark by an educationist who said that where do you have roll calls? It's only in jail and in schools. This is what happens when you do corporatization of academics.
I think this is a broader global issue which both of you have raised, where academia in general is getting driven by money. Academics don't have time to learn anything new.
So we don't have to write grants.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In ISI, we are reasonably immune to that as of now.
Right. And this brings me back to the point of becoming a body corporate.
We have to remember learning is for the sake of learning and not for any other thing.
So this institute is at least 16 years older than the government of India. Okay. You need to learn from people. You need to learn from teachers. You need to learn from students.
An attack on the legacy, it seems.
An attack on the legacy. Because this institute, being Mahalanobis' creation, where Rabindranath Tagore had a lot of influence, is a part of Bengal Renaissance and the Brahma movement. You have to keep that in mind. In my opinion, it's like I was sitting in my computer and suddenly Microsoft will say that they want to upgrade, and for 1 hour I cannot work. And then after that, a lot of things have been messed up. This is not what the government should be doing. Okay, government should certainly not start upgrading things like Microsoft.
Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. I start today's discussions with this vivid portrayal of the world that Rabindranath Tagore imagined and prayed for. A world that would be an abode of free and fearless minds. Ravi Thakur's towering wisdom provided mentorship to India's freedom movement and early post-colonial imagination of the country and its leaders. Among them was Professor Prashanta Chandra Mahalanobis, the father of Indian statistics, the architect of India's planned economy, and the founder of the Indian Statistical Institute, or ISI. Today's episode is on the ISI Bill 2025. ISI is governed and funded by the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, or MoSPI, Government of India. The draft bill was put out by MoSPI for public consultation through the Press Information Bureau, or PIB, inviting comments and suggestions from all stakeholders and the general public as part of the pre-legislative consultation process on September 27th, 2025. The extended deadline for the submission of comments has passed on the 3rd of November. We are recording the episode on the 9th of November. The bill has come as a surprise to many who think it is unnecessary and perhaps quite dangerous in many ways, not just to the Institute as we know it for so long, but also to the nation where ISI stands perhaps as the final frontier for socialistic education. Its classrooms are crucibles for equity, where the ideals of collective progress and critical consciousness confront the persistent realities of inequality and individualism. The stated goal of the bill is to elevate its institutional status by converting it from a registered society to a statutory body corporate and upscaling its governance framework, thereby aligning it with peer institutions of national importance. The new governance structure to be imposed through this bill is being perceived as an irrevocable loss of autonomy of the Institute. There are many who are very concerned about the changes being brought through this bill. Among them are our two eminent guests in this podcast episode, Professor Rahul Roy and Professor Prabal Choudhury. Professor Rahul Roy is renowned worldwide for his significant contributions to probability theory, particularly in the areas of percolation theory and random graphs. His influential book on continuum percolation, co-authored with Ronald Meester, is considered a foundational text in the field. Professor Roy completed his bachelor's and master's in statistics from ISI and earned his PhD from Cornell University, USA. He worked as a postdoc at Cornell and then joined Duke University, USA as an assistant professor. Thereafter, he joined ISI and has been working there for over 35 years now. He has been associated with ISI, where his research and mentorship have left a lasting impact. He's a fellow of the Indian National Science Academy, the Indian Academy of Sciences, and the National Academy of Sciences, India, reflecting his eminent standing in the academic community. Professor Roy retired from the Theoretical Statistics and Mathematics Unit of ISI, Delhi Center, in 2024 and has been a visiting faculty at the Indraprastha Institute of Information Technology, Delhi, since then. Professor Prabal Choudhury is an eminent statistician and currently a professor in the Theoretical Statistics and Mathematics Unit at ISI Kolkata. He earned his Bachelor and Master of Statistics degrees from ISI and his PhD from the University of California, Berkeley. After a brief stint as an assistant professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, he returned to ISI Kolkata in 1990 and has been a faculty member at the Theoretical Statistics and Mathematics Division ever since. Professor Choudhury's research is highly regarded worldwide and has earned him numerous accolades, including the C.R. Rao National Award in Statistics, the B.M. Birla Science Award in Mathematics, and the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Award of CSIR in Mathematical Sciences, presented by the Prime Minister of India in 2005. He is also a fellow of all three major science academies in India and the Institute of Mathematical Statistics, USA. Notably, He was an invited speaker at the International Congress of Mathematicians in 2010, a testament to his global standing in the field. His work continues to inspire both theoretical advancements and practical applications in statistics and related disciplines. Professor Roy, Professor Choudhury, welcome. And thank you for kindly agreeing to speak on this podcast episode. My first question would be to kind of briefly give an account of the history of ISI, how ISI started as an institute, as a society, and then was established as an institute. Perhaps we could start with Professor Choudhury.
So I guess you want me to tell a little bit about the historical journey of the institute. Okay.
Yes.
So I think after Mahalanobis returned to India without really completing his tripos in Cambridge, he completed part 1 and part 2. During the First Great War, he returned and he never went back. And then he started teaching Presidency College at that time. And as he was working on different things, he developed an interest in data analysis and statistics. And then he started having some sort of a discussion with a group of eminent intellectuals of Bengal, thinking about forming something like a society or an institute. And that was the genesis of Indian Statistical Institute. So initially it started at the Baker's Lab in Presidency College, where he was teaching physics. So that was a small room where he used to interact with students and his friends, colleagues, and other scientists, working on different problems. For example, sometimes he'll be working on this anthropological problem that he got from then director of Indian Museum, Nelson Anandel, or he might be working on meteorological data that he got from the Director General of the observatories at that time. And so there are various statistical problems that he was working on.
But by training, he was a physicist, right? So
he was a physicist by training. He was teaching in the physics department.
Right.
When he went to Cambridge, he first started doing his part 1 in mathematics and didn't perform very well. Then he switched to natural science, and then he did very well in physics, and then he returned without completing the third part. So, and he was also teaching as a physics professor. Now, I think there were various problems that he encountered around him, various scientific problems that he encountered around him, which sort of made him interested in this subject, which was quite not developed or well known at that time. I mean, the subject of statistics, it was not really, a well formulated or well defined subject at that time. Okay, so he was sort of developing the subject at that time as he was looking at different problems which involving data. So as it went on, I think yes.
So when you say it wasn't very well developed, you mean globally or like in the Indian context?
Globally. Okay. So, for example, Carl Pearson's journal, Biometrica, that was sort of considered as a journal of data analysis of biological data or of biometry, something like that. Okay, it was spelled with Biometrica as Biometrica with a K because Carl Pearson wanted to have his first initial there. Okay, but it was a journal on biometry essentially. Okay, so globally there was no, as far as I know, any statistics training program or anything at that time. Okay, in fact, Mahalanobis started the first statistics training program in India, and then eventually he started a master's program in Calcutta University where different people joined, like people like C.R. Rao was one of the first students in Calcutta University statistics program, and like that. Okay, so now as it was going on, Mahalanobis probably felt that he needs to have some kind of a group, and he decided to have this society called Indian Statistical Institute. It was called Indian Statistical Institute even then, but it was formed like a society. So it was in 1931. He was okay. Just a minute. So it was on 17 December 1931. Mahalanobis held a meeting with Pramothanath Banerjee, who was the Minto Professor of Economics, Nikhil Ranjan Sen, who was Khaira Professor of Applied Mathematics, and Sir Rajendranath Mukherjee. And this meeting led to the establishment of the Indian Statistical Institute, which was formally registered on 28th April 1932 as a non-profit distributing learned society under the Societies Registration Act of 1860. Later, the institute was registered under the West Bengal Societies Registration Act of 1961, amended in 1964. So you see, this is really a society. It's a learned society registered currently under a state government act. Mukherjee accepted the role of president of ISI and held this position until his death in 1936. So that was the beginning. Okay. And then eventually Mahalanobis obtained some lands and then set up where the current campus is. And they started having some training program, because as Mahalanobis was getting more and more involved into various data analytic problems, he needed helping hands. So he thought he will train up people so that they can help him. You'll be amused to know that some of these people who were recruited for helping him in data analysis, they were called computers. Okay, so they are computers because they are helping him in the computation related to data. Okay, ISI didn't have a real computer at that time, so these computers were helping. So that's how it started. And after they started the training program, a lot of people joined, and Sierra was one of the person who was joined the training program at the beginning, and he got several, I would say, very eminent mathematicians into his team, training people up. For example, Rajchandra Bose and Somarendranath Rai. These were two key people helping him with the teaching and research at the beginning of the institute. And much of his financial support was coming from, at that time it was called Imperial Council of Agricultural Research, which is now called Indian Council of Agricultural Research. And the person who greatly helped in the development of his research activities through government funding was Ronald Fisher, because Ronald Fisher was quite influential on the British government at that time. So in the 30s, much of the funding that the institute received, Ronald Fisher played a pivotal role in working out that. And it was a long friendship between Mahalanobis and Fisher that helped in the development of the institute at the beginning.
This is when the society gets established, and then in 1959 we have the ISI Act, whereby it gets established as an institute of national importance, right? So if I may come to Professor Roy, so if you can give an overall, an overall kind of trajectory of ISI being established as an institute of national importance in around the 1960s, and then from there we have the different centers which get kind of established thereafter. So if you could give a brief account of that.
Well, I won't particularly talk about ISI because Probal really knows much more. But think of the times in the 50s. India has just got its independence. Okay, and after a really protracted fight, okay, one non-violent or otherwise, and Nehru is the first prime minister, an extremely educated and far-sighted prime minister. Far-sighted in the sense that even internationally, he is leading the anti-colonial movement. So Nasser and Tito and others come later. Okay, and in India, he, because of his not only education, but because if you read the book, the Discovery of India, which he wrote from jail, you can see his wide knowledge about the ancient as well as current of that time, scientific and work about, and also not only scientific, about the society, about the tribals and everything. So, it was we are really fortunate to have had Nehru at that crucial period of history. And who are Nehru's friends? So Probal said Mahalanobis. Mahalanobis was one of many. His friends were Meghnad Shah, his friends were Bhabha, his friends were K.N. Raj, and the economists, So he had a wide range of friends. And also the Gandhian independence movement attracted many other people from abroad. So the economist Samuelson wanted to do something for India. Okay, in the Kantorovich from the Soviet Union. And so, together with Bhabha, Meghnad Shah, and Mahalanobis, he actually wanted to create the first, in some sense, a system of education where we could be educated as Indians, because there was really a paucity of educational establishment. Those Calcutta University and Allahabad University and some of the universities which were established by the English, needed reforms also. So he created this various such institutes all over India. And the important thing is that although Nehru created it, he let it be governed and gave it complete autonomy. And it was Mahalanobis who was completely in control of ISI. Nehru did not interfere. Similarly for TIFR, similarly for Delhi School of Economics and various other places, which Nehru encouraged and realized that it is the job of the nascent government to support this, because you do not reap benefits immediately. It's for the next generation, the generation after. So Nehru's farsightedness, I think, led to the establishment of this institute, but more importantly, the act, where, as Probal can tell you more, the autonomy was very well established right in the act. Okay. And that is what allowed this institute to grow, develop, attract other people, and not only develop to look for, to create, the national statistical systems, which it did, what we know as NSSO and others who actually created, and also methods, of collecting data and analyzing data were all created there, but it also allowed theoretical research. And because of, as what Probal told you about Mahalanobis' association with anthropometric data, economics data, and all this data, he realized that this institute should be broad enough to have the geological studies and etc. And if you realize, so 59 is the act. So there's this wonderful person, Pamela Robinson, who comes into the geology department. And we have the dinosaur, the expedition, and that also developed geology in India. I mean, it's not only statistics.
Right.
No, there are various other fields which were developed
Right.
just because of this existence of what we call histogram buildings at ISI.
Right. Right. We know about the ECJU, the first indigenous computer, which was developed in ISI with collaboration with JU. I'm sure one of you will be talking about that as well. So, Professor Roy, it is so. If I understood you correctly, it was Nehru's trust in the academics and experts of a certain field. It could be statistics within ISI. It could be fundamental research in areas within TIFR. It was Nehru's trust in the experts, which led to these development of autonomous institutes, which were functioned and governed, which were functioning and were getting governed by the academics themselves and not by bureaucrats, right?
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly. And not only, but you also have to realize that there's a certain euphoria which Indians are now entering because of the independence movement. And they really want to create a new independent India,
Right.
which has no connection with the casteism and the religious intolerance and all those things. So they wanted to create a new secular India
Right.
along the vision of Nehru and Gandhi.
Right. Right.
And Tagore, as you said.
Right, absolutely. So, unity in diversity was, has been a theme within India and certainly within ISI. The ISI logo itself has unity in diversity etched within it. So, which is an amazing thing. Like to see that the vision of a diverse federal, governance being portrayed in various ways within the institute as well. Like from the time that I've been associated with the institute, I've seen that happening. So, which was very inspiring. Professor Choudhury, back to you with the ISI Act 1959. If you could give a brief account of how the institute actually became an institute of national importance, and then onwards the various establishments of the various centers.
Yeah, I will do that. But before that, I just want to say a couple of interesting things related to what Professor Rahul Roy has just said.
Sure.
I will say one thing regarding involvement and support of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru about this institute. I will tell you a very interesting story which very few people know. I discovered it from my ISI archive based on a handwritten note from Pandit Nehru to Mahalanobis. I don't remember the exact year. Once Mahalanobis was, he was not the president, but I think he was responsible for organizing a part of Indian Science Congress. And he wanted to invite some eminent scientists from abroad, especially from Europe and United States. And so as usual, he went for financial help to invite these people to the Prime Minister. And believe it or not, Pandit Nehru definitely promised the support, but he wrote a fantastic sentence in that note. He said, Mr. Mahalanobis, you may want to contact Russian scientists also. I know they are doing some good work. Now, if you now think about the connection of ISI with the Russian scientists, that's history. People like Kolmogorov and many others have visited ISI, and ISI has a lot of exchange program with various Russian institutes, and it has its genesis in that letter from Pandit Nehru. So he had that kind of intellectual ability to influence people like Mahalanobis. Okay, so that's one thing I want to point out. Okay, so this lot of collaboration that we developed in this institute with the Russian scientists, because Nehru encouraged Mahalanobis to do that. Because Nehru, in the original plan of Mahalanobis, he really didn't have the Russian scientists in mind. He was thinking about inviting people from Europe and America. Also, Mahalanobis made it a point that he will regularly invite eminent scientists from abroad. People like Niels Bohr, Madame Curie, Norbert Wiener. They visited. Norbert Wiener actually stayed for several months in India and went around giving lectures. And this was one of his primary agenda, Mahalanobis. Okay, that these people will go around the country. Maybe ISI will be the main organizer, but these people will go around the country, give lectures in different institutions so that people all over the country can be benefited from their lectures. Okay? And he had full support from Nehru on these things. Okay? So I just wanted to mention that. Now coming back to ISI Act 1959, it was largely an initiative of Jawaharlal Nehru again, and I will start with the beginning of. So the institute started, and then Mahalanobis was working on different problems, and as it grew, he had a lot of employees and he had to pay their salaries, so he needed funds. Now, government fund in those days, like even today, was never regular, so it will come sometimes on few months late or so. So in the late 40s, ISI started facing late 40s and early 50s. ISI started facing a very serious administrative and financial crisis. It will be like this, that one fine morning, the employees of ISI, they were all contractual workers at that time. Nobody had a permanent job. Okay, they're all contractual workers, and even people like C.R. Rao. C.R. Rao has written it in one of his biography that that they will receive a letter saying that you are terminated from today because we have not received funding to renew the project. Then maybe after 1 month or 2 months, they'll receive another letter saying that now we have received the funding from the government and you have been reinstated. Okay. So, and it created a lot of problems. There were strikes and all these things in the institute. So it created a lot of administrative problems. And at that time, the president of the institute was Sri Deshmukh, who was the governor of Reserve Bank, and he was also a Cambridge graduate. And Mahalanobis had a good relationship with him. In fact, during that period, in the 40s and early 50s, Mahalanobis had some interaction with Nehru, but it was not really the beginning of friendship until Sri Deshmukh took a lot of initiative to create a sort of a channel of communication between these two people, Mahalanobis and Nehru, so that the institute can be protected from this administrative and financial crisis. So it was largely Sri Deshmukh's initiative that Nehru came into picture in the development of this institute. And then Nehru decided that he will bring this bill to declare the institute an institute of national importance, and there will be a guaranteed grant in aid that the institute will receive every year. Okay. Now I'll briefly tell you what happened when this bill was moved. Just like now you see a lot of things in the media, probably the media was not there at that time, but obviously the parliamentary debate was there. And I have both records of both the Rajya Sabha debate and the Lok Sabha debate. I think the Rajya Sabha debate was particularly interesting because there are a lot of opposition to the bill at that time that Nehru himself moved, that Indian Statistical Institute bill. And part of the opposition came from the parliamentarians from West Bengal also, because Mahalanobis sometimes was perceived as a big dictator. Okay, so they thought this bill will make Mahalanobis an even bigger dictator. Okay, so they are opposing it. But I was quite surprised to see that Nehru got several MPs from various places. Like there was one MP from Rajasthan. I don't remember even their names, but their names are listed in the Rajya Sabha proceedings. What they are saying, it's clearly documented. I have a copy of that document. Okay, so somebody from Rajasthan, somebody from UP, they came forward and supported Nehru. But still, the debate was going on for quite some time. Then Nehru made a very interesting comment. Nehru said, and it is recorded. It's on record. I am not making it up. Okay, it's on record. It is recorded there as Nehru said, "Look, if you think that this institute is doing useful work for the government, then we have to fund this institute. And the amount of funding that we need to sustain this institute, we can't do that without this bill and declaring this institute an institute of national importance." So all these debates are abstract. I mean, if you really like this institute to continue and do the kind of work it is doing, you have to have this. So that's how it was passed. So that's sort of the brief history of the bill. And then it became an act in 1960.
Sure. So we have been talking about Nehru for quite some time now, and his influence and his role. The fact that he was maintaining a balance between people from Europe and the US and people from Russia is also it is
It's
easy.
deep insight.
It's a so and it goes very well with his non-alignment entire non-alignment strategy.
Absolutely.
which was so crucial for positioning India and in fact South Asia in the global space.
No, I think not only non-alignment, the entire structured economy, the 5-year plans, these are what we learned from the Soviets. But there was a big difference. The difference is that while Soviet was completely state-sponsored, the industry would come from the state. Mahalanobis, in the second 5-year plan, particularly, which is really the creation of modern India, and Nehru also, because we had to have now public private is a bad two words when we use them together, but we had to recognize that the private sector has much to contribute, except that the private sector doesn't have the capacity to build a steel plant. Okay, and the huge mega projects, or there's bridges, across the Allahabad Bridge, for example. Those were all the government has to make. So this mixture of private and public, actually, that is the reason why lots of economists also were attracted by the model which the Mahalanobis, Nehru, and what India was basically trying to do. Mhm. And if you go to the ISI museum, for example, there's a picture of Che Guevara there. Because when the Cuban Revolution took place, it wasn't declared to be a communist. It was basically they were forced to take the communist path.
Sure.
But at that time, they wanted to come and check, what is India doing and learn from India. Okay. And not only this, Probal can tell you much better. The entire system of the sample survey system, collecting data, analyzing data, a whole lot of them were actually started in India and then adopted by various other countries. Right, Probal? Am I correct in saying this?
Yeah, this Mahalanobis' contribution or in National Sample Survey, it was not just pioneering. That is almost sort of the creation of sample survey. That's what happened. In fact,
Exactly.
I sometimes ask this question to the students that, when Mahalanobis was elected to the fellowship of the Royal Society, and the citation actually mentioned his contribution in large-scale sample survey. In spite of his, in my opinion, probably the work that has maximum impact is probably his work on Mahalanobis distance. Because if you do a Google search, you will probably see billions of items coming for Mahalanobis distance. It is something that is used by all intellectual disciplines, I would say, not just scientific disciplines these days. Okay, but he was given, he was honored with the fellowship because of his contribution in large-scale sample survey. And Fisher nominated him and pursued the case. And Fisher's choice was his contribution in large-scale sample survey.
So just to be clear, this is like large-scale sample survey globally. It's not just within India. Like he was the first to.
I mean, he started with agriculture survey and then he extended it to many other surveys. Okay? I will tell you a very interesting story.
Household survey,
yes,
household data.
Household survey, all these things he developed eventually. There are many historical anecdotes. Okay, for example, during a communal riot at the beginning of, shortly after independence, there was a problem that a lot of people took refuge inside the Red Fort, and government wanted to get an estimate of how many people are there so that they can provide them relief. What Mahalanobis was asked to do at that time, that without entering the fort, give us an estimate of the number of people inside the fort. And that was the challenge for Mahalanobis. You see, they were not allowed to enter the fort because the fort was inhabited by a particular religious community, and they were very afraid that if somebody entered there, it will create more religious conflicts and religious clashes. Okay, so what Mahalanobis did, what is famously known as the salt survey. So he sort of got an idea about the amount of salt being consumed, and from that he got an estimate of the number of people. So everywhere he was using his basic tools of sample survey that he developed, and that was used by government in all places. For example, government wanted to know about the amount of jute that will be produced before the actual harvest. So he started his agricultural survey where he developed these crop cutting experiments and all these things, and then he gave a far more accurate estimate than the government could get based on a complete enumeration. So, I mean, it has been said by people like famous statisticians like Abraham Wald or Harold Hoteling that what sample survey we see today, what we teach in undergraduate and postgraduate courses, that had its beginning in India, and that had its initial development in India.
If we just take things forward from there, from the 1959 Act.
See, ISI became bigger and bigger, and its governance required various changes.
Sure.
So it has its memorandum of association that got modified from time to time.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. My question is, at the moment, the governance structure of ISI, it has something called the ISI Council, which was established at some point in during the last 50 or 60 years, and that is when it like the how the institute is currently running was essentially determined. So if we can start with the current the current governance structure which is there at ISI, the ISI Council, how it is constituted at the moment, and then we would want to compare it with what the ISI Bill 2025 is proposing.
Indian Statistical Institute is a society, and it has its general body which consists of its membership.
Right.
And it has a president,
right,
which is elected by its general body.
Right.
And the council, president is the highest person in the ISI society.
Sure.
Okay? And then in the council, there are representatives from different scientific divisions who are also elected by the members of the different scientific divisions. Then you have the scientific and non-scientific workers. Who are the scientific workers that are that I talk about here? Is like when we talk about the divisional scientific representatives, that they are represented or elected by the vote of people who are faculty, okay. Like assistant professor and above. But
so it's a democratic process.
Then within different divisions, there are these people who are not faculty, but providing technical support or other scientific support in the research activities and project activities of the institute. So they elect their representative, and then they, at the same time, there are these non-scientific workers like the staff members, the administrative workers. They have their representative there.
Sure.
And then there are representatives of the various academies of the institute.
Right.
And then there are representatives of UGC, and then there are various other representatives. I don't remember that all. You can take a look at the website of the complete list of members.
Sure.
And then in the first meeting of the council is for 2 years, and the term of the council is for 2 years. And then in the first meeting of the council, president presides over it, and then in that first meeting, they select a chairman, and in the subsequent meetings, the chairman chairs the council. Okay, so that's the governing council, and the governing council is the highest statutory executive body of the institute.
Right.
And the council appoints the director in principle. So it's like the director is selected by a committee that is chaired by the chairman of the council,
right,
and 2 other members who are based on suggestion from the council members.
Right.
So then a selection committee is formed, and then the selection committee makes a recommendation for a directorial candidate, and then it has to be ratified by the council. Right. And the director is ultimately answerable to the council.
Right.
And also the director is finally the society president who finally approves the director. It's not that the council recommends to the society president.
Yes, sir. That's right. That's right.
Yes. So the role of the society's general body is in selecting the president of selecting or electing. I'm not sure.
Electing. President is elected.
Okay.
President is elected by popular vote from the members of the society.
Right.
And the chair of the council is also technically.
So the chair of the council is decided in a meeting, in the first meeting of the council, which is presided by the president of the society.
Right.
And then approved by the society president, right, Probal?
Well, I mean, it's in the council. Okay, so president represents the society there.
Sure.
Okay, yes.
Sure. Sure.
But this ISI council comes into existence in the 70s, right, Probal, if I'm correct?
What?
This ISI governing council comes in existence in the 1970s.
It could be. I am not very sure about that. I have not checked that. Okay,
I think it's
I have not
post,
tried to. Maybe I'll
post
check.
Mahalanobis, more or less.
Okay. So
See, initially, the institute was a very small organized here. So it was not, for example, there was no division or anything. There was something called the Research and Training School. And Mahalanobis was not the director of the institute. He was the secretary of the society. Okay. And the secretary of C.R. Rao was also, for quite some time, the secretary of the Research and Training School. So that's how it.
Right.
Then, as the institute became larger and larger and it became more complex, then all these governing structures came.
right. So the Research and Training School, and then we had the NSSO. So these were kind of the two main bodies under ISI, right?
No, I wouldn't say that. Research and Training School. Then I think NSSO formation, it has a different history. Okay. So it's like Mahalanobis was helping the government with these various surveys.
Right.
So he had people trained up who will conduct the survey. Initially, Mahalanobis was looking after everything.
Right.
But then the problem became bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And that led to the creation of an organization. And initially it was within ISI, and then it became an independent organization
NSSO.
within the ministry.
Sure. Okay. So
It became an organ of the ministry.
Right. So both of you mentioned divisions. So ISI at the moment has 7 divisions, right?
Yes.
So academic divisions, there are 7 divisions, and each of those divisions elect the academic members of the divisions elect their respective professors in charge.
Like the teaching and training division,
Right.
they elect the dean of studies.
Right.
So that is elected by the vote of the members of the academic council, which are all the professors.
Right. Yes. So the academic council is another body which is kind of a I'm not sure how to put it with respect to
It's like the
council.
academic senate of any other institute or university.
Sure. Okay.
So it has all full professors, and then
And also
representatives
some elected
of-
representatives of associate professor and assistant.
Yeah, so and representatives from them, which is also elected.
Right. Again, elected. Like these representatives, other than the professors, are all elected.
Yeah, they're all elected.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. And we have heard of the dean. So what exactly is the role of the dean here?
Dean is the head of the teaching and training division. So,
Right.
so execution of all our academic programs
Right.
is the responsibility of the dean.
So
So he manages and administers all these academic programs.
sure.
And he's also the convener of the academic council.
Academic
Right.
council.
Okay.
While director is the chair.
Right. Okay. And so the dean is also elected, is it?
Yes. So not only this position, I forgot to mention that the council has 3 elected representatives of the society in the council.
Okay.
So the general body sends 3 representatives by popular vote to the
Right.
council. They
Right.
represent the society in addition to the president. President is a member of the council always.
Right.
Though he doesn't come, just like the president of India doesn't come to the parliament every day. Okay.
Right.
So something like that. Okay.
Right. Okay. That's very good. Thank you. So with the council and the academic council, all the academic, administrative, and financial activities of the institute gets kind of executed and governed. Now,
Yes.
so this is what ISI is at the moment. Now, with the ISI Bill 2020, sorry.
At this point, Sanjay, when you introduced this entire program,
Right.
you had actually used the word governed by MoSPI.
Right.
That's not correct. We were never governed by MoSPI. We were
Okay.
governing ourselves.
Sure.
Okay.
We are
So
governed
I
by
want to
the
correct
ISI
that word.
council.
Yeah, so that because you brought all these things, in your introduction to ISI, we were never governed by MoSPI. We still aren't.
I apologize for the mistake.
The institute is governed by the ISI council.
I see.
And ISI council has representatives of the government. So
Right.
government gives its input into the governing through the council.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you for
And,
correcting.
our funding comes directly from the parliament. The ministry doesn't have any say in this.
Exactly. So
Except-
ISI budget is a part of the government budget and it is to be approved by the parliament. So when MoSPI puts the budget, then just like it will put some budget for NSSO, CSO and other things, there will be a part in of the budget for ISI and it has to be approved by the parliament.
Right. Okay. That makes it very clear. So with this, with the current, composition of the council and the academic council, let us slowly move towards what has been proposed in the ISI Bill 2025. So the ISI Bill 2025 is changing the governance structure from what it is at the moment to something else.
The changes are basically throwing away the basic democratic structure.
Right.
So the governing council would be decided by the government.
Right.
Right, Prabal, am I correct?
Yeah, it is that they will form a board of governors.
Exactly. And they will now elect all the director and all the heads and everything, the controlling officers. I'm saying officers, but these are all professors. Okay. Of the institute. So instead of being a bottoms up thing, which we had till now, it would be a top down.
Right.
And also in the academic council, they want to retain all the professors, but then there'll also be a bureaucrat, apparently a non-voting bureaucrat, who would be there present at the academic council to decide, I guess, the academic courses and everything, and also, so the academic councils. So if you get a PhD from ISI, it finally the academic council which says, okay, this is the list of people whom we are approving for PhD.
Right.
Okay. So there are various of. Well, you may say that these are really bureaucratic things.
Sure.
But it's the professors who do it. Right. Instead of a bureaucrat who's there signing also, right? So these are the various changes which I understand. A cursory reading, you'd find that the entire the focus which we had at ISI, which led to these the development of probability and statistics all over the world, may be hampered because of this bill. That is one of my problems. Yes.
Sure.
Now, Probal, I don't know whether you agree or not.
Yeah, I largely agree with that. No, I think I have. Okay, now let me start by pointing out one thing. Okay, for any organization which is nearly 100 years old now, because if I say the journey began in 1931, we are here in 2025, so it's nearly 100 years. Okay, and which has grown so much and whose structure has become so complex, it's involved in so many complex activities. Okay. Obviously, everything is, I don't claim that everything is going on perfectly. Okay, so it needs reforms.
Yeah, everybody.
No question about it. Okay.
Yeah.
But so, if it needs reforms, you have to first find out what are the root causes of the problem, how to implement the reform so that the national interest is protected. Okay. I think that's my fundamental position here. Okay. Now, if I look at this bill, I will tell you how this came. Okay. It came almost out of the blue. There was a council meeting where they were supposed to announce the name of the next director. That was the expectation. I wouldn't say supposed to, but that was the expectation based on previous deliberations and the meetings. Well, the name of the next director was not announced. Instead, this new bill was presented, which was not even part of the agenda item. Now, well, I mean, I'm not debating that issue. What I am debating is that, whether you have given announcement, notice or made it an agenda item, that's a minor issue. A more important issue is, it's an important thing. Have you done your homework properly for that? It is absolutely clear that they have not done that. I think it will be kind of foolish if we spend much time discussing the current version of the bill, because is so poorly drafted. I don't know who drafted it. Okay. It's full of errors, full of lack of understanding of the system. They do not have the slightest idea that if an institution is registered as a society according to a state government act and you want to convert it into a different object, what kind of procedure you need to go through. Now, this is nothing new. There are other institutions in India which started as a society and later on became a different object. For example, IIM Ahmedabad went through this process in 2017. And there were long discussions between society representatives and the government. Eventually, they reached a consensus. There was an agreement. And only after that, the change was made. Now, it's just like as if I just sit on my computer and type using MS Word, okay, no society, corporate body. And it becomes a corporate body. They think it's like a magic. So that's the main problem. The people who are trying to put this, I think they're extremely poor bureaucrats. They don't have any slightest idea about how to run an administration. Okay. Even a layman can see that this bill is so poorly drafted that it will probably not survive any debate in the parliament. That's my feeling. Even if it is bulldozed by the majority, it will, if it is challenged in the court, it will be quashed summary because of the legal issues here.
Right.
So that's my first observation. Okay. The second observation is why you want to do that? That's not clear at all. Who will gain by doing it? See, if your objective is to enhance the contribution of the institute for the nation, identify things properly and do that. You change the act, change the governing structure, that's not going to change anything. Okay. See, this is a stupid idea that if the government has more control, then the institute will function better. We know that it doesn't work like that. Okay, government was in control of many things at one point of time, and they have gotten rid of those things eventually. Okay, so I think that's my overall impression about this bill. Okay? Right. It's not very clear for what purpose this bill has been drafted, and the drafting is so poor, and the legal issues have been so badly ignored here. They haven't done even the basic homework that in India, the other institutions who were originally registered as society, when they were converted into some other type of organization, what exercise they had to go through.
Sure.
As of today, I am not aware of any direct discussion between the Indian Statistical Institute society and the government.
Sure. Sure.
And also,
without that, this bill is meaningless, in my opinion.
The proponents of the bill,
yes,
one of their points is that since the government is putting in so much money, therefore the government should have a say. Okay. First of all, it's not government's money; it's taxpayers' money. So government is just the conduit. Okay. Two, it has been putting in so much money for the last 4 decades because clearly there was some benefit it was reaping out of it. Right. And the benefits in the early period, as Probal quite rightly said, was setting up the National Sample Survey System. We really set it up from scratch. I mean, not only set up the bureaucratic structure, but also the academic methods which are to be used. So sure. it was an exercise, right. Which cannot be ever underestimated. Right. Okay, that was in the initial period. Then also it started the teaching and training school. The BStat and MStat. Earlier it was diplomas, and now BStat, MStat. That produced an army of people, educated, okay, who are running the Indian Statistical Service, sure. Okay, who also were in the forefront of research in statistics, right. Mathematics, all over the world. And not only that, in geology, getting quantitative methods, right. In geology, in physics, in various other things, As we all know, quantitative methods lead any discipline to have some predictive powers.
Right.
Okay, and that's what happened. ISI was producing the lead.
Right.
Now, if you want to give a monetary value to what it was producing, you can never do it. You can never do it. Okay. But it was certainly producing, and I think, from that BT Road place, its footsteps, its footprint is all over the world.
Right.
Okay. People went to the United Nations to talk about the minimum calorie of food required and everything. They also, in some sense, came from the Indian studies, right, Probal?
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like, I think government is disbursing fund coming from the taxpayers. And of course, it is the responsibility of the government to find out whether the fund is being properly utilized or not.
Right.
I do not deny that. Okay. Now, in order to do that, they have to do a proper evaluation of the institute. Where is the proper evaluation in order to propose this bill? I don't see that anywhere.
Right.
Now, also, in what way you want the institute to serve the nation? Well, I mean, I think by and large, whenever definite teaching or research related proposals have come from the government,
Right.
we have tried to address that.
Right.
Okay. Well, and it's like we regularly train their probationers every year. All their probationers are trained in ISI for nearly a year. And so, I mean, I think if you are talking about even service specifically to this small ministry, whatever they require to provide them. And we run lots of projects that are related to the activities of the ministry. Okay.
Right.
Now, so I think that's what they need to focus on. Government is for doing the job of the government. They are not supposed to tell academic institutions how to run because the government is not competent for that. Okay. Just like they were not competent enough to tell the farmers how their finances should be managed. Okay. And that led to the big chaos and then repealing of the farmers' bill. It's same thing in a smaller scale. That is what is happening.
Right.
They should mind their own business.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So just to add to this, along with providing services directly to the government, creating, as you have been saying, like an army of statisticians, and then eventually, people, mathematicians, economists, computer scientists,
Economists, computer scientists, and economists, I would
Right.
say.
right? So I mean that is essentially capability building, right? Not
Yeah.
just within the country. When these students, when they pass, they become alumni and they go to the they go out of the country and they are still contributing to the society in some way or the other. That is contribution to the world in general. Like so
Yes,
so how can
that's
we
what we can contribute. That's what we are
Right.
capable of contributing, and that's what we are doing.
Right.
That is what was the objective of the institute,
Right.
largely the objective of the institute from the very beginning of this study,
right?
from the very beginning of these, from the very beginning of its this institute.
And there sorry, please.
Sorry, Sanjay. Also, since you quoted Tagore, we have to get out from these narrow nationalist boundaries. A mathematical theorem or a result in statistics is not just for India.
True.
It's for
Absolutely.
everybody.
Absolutely.
Okay, and the vision of Tagore and Nehru wanted us to do that.
Right.
Okay,
Absolutely.
and so do not just we do not just focus on India, although we are in this, we have to do.
Right.
We have a vast, as I said, our footprints are everywhere.
Absolutely. And our alumni, they like when they leave India and they're working elsewhere, like in other countries, they are essentially ambassadors of the institute, of the disciplines that they have been taught, and of course of the country. Right, the country establishes relationships with other countries through these ambassadors, right? Through the people who are established outside, and at least certainly in academia, we do know the importance of connections with other academics within, like in other countries. So there's no denying that the institute has been doing what it is supposed to do. Was there ever a report from the from the government that the people who are getting trained at ISI are not doing their job anywhere else?
I am not aware of any such official thing as of today.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
I mean, there might be whispers and corridor discussions about all these things, but I have not seen any official complaint like that.
Sure.
I mean, that training program that we run for our ISS probationers, that has been always praised by the government.
Okay. Very
Right.
nice.
And also the review committees, which we have had, once in a while, once in a decade or so, they never actually had any complaint about our teaching programs or about our research programs. They never had any complaints. Their complaints were by and large about the smaller, the nitty-gritty of running the institutes.
Right.
Of course, it's true. For example, Probal, may remember that, the color of the jackets of the security guard were to be decided by the council. That's something which we should have gotten a long time.
But with that, sometimes it has.
So there were all these things. So where should the bank be located within the campus? Those are not the council decision. The entire notion of governing should be the thing rather than the nitty-gritties of it. Okay, at some point, the council really got involved in the nitty-gritties. And that's when the review committee basically, gave us a kick and said, get your act together. Which I admit, which I agree completely. And that's exactly should.
Because I think he has mentioned already about the review committee. Yeah. I think I will say something about, in the review committee report, there have been a lot of reforms proposed. Okay. And all these reforms, they have not proposed any change of the ISI Act anywhere. And those reforms are proposed by a review committee formed by the government. It's not formed by the institute, it's formed by the government, and the government appointed members are there.
Sure.
And so, if the government is really serious, they should talk to the council and the director and try to see how those reforms proposed in the review committee report can be implemented or whether they need to be modified and things like that. It doesn't require changing the act and changing the basic structure of the institute.
Sure. So, Professor Choudhury, just to be very clear, so the review committee is created by the government, who review the institute's workings and performance activities every 10 years, is it?
Oh, it's done very irregularly because the government doesn't form the committee on time. But the last review committee report was the fourth review committee report.
Sure.
That was done. That was also the review committee submitted its report more than 5 years ago. But as far as I know, now none of their significant recommendations have been as such executed or implemented.
Sure.
But that review committee was also problematic for me because what do you mean by a review? A review is from an outside board. You cannot have your own director sitting and reviewing her activities.
There was a complaint about that in the last review committee. They included the director, but in the previous review committee's director was never a member of the review.
So
but you cannot review yourself. That's the whole point.
So the director of ISI was a member of the fourth review committee.
The fourth review committee. Yes.
Okay. So, Professor Choudhury and Professor Roy. So, I think that there's one point which I think we should discuss a little bit. Professor Choudhury alluded to it, that there are some major legal issues with this bill. So if the bill gets challenged either in the parliament, like seriously challenged, or in the court, the bill will fall apart. If you could give just a few major important points.
I have already mentioned something about how to really convert the institute from a society into a statutory body corporate.
Right.
The other thing is that what about the assets of these?
Okay.
Now, right now, any asset of the institute is owned by the society, which is the general body or whatever. Okay.
So that is by virtue of Prashanta Chandra Mahalanobis's personal property being owned by the society now, is it?
Yeah. Whatever is now registered in the name of ISI is owned by the society. By the society. There are private contributions there.
Right.
Of course, there are properties acquired through government grants,
Right.
everything. But
Right.
once it is in the name of the institute, it's owned by the society.
I see.
Now, if you convert that into a different body, what happens to these properties? It's a vital issue. You have to. This is why a clear negotiation is needed between the society and the government before you make any such change in the basic structure of the institute.
Right.
Changing things like that, okay, you have to create a new academic program, you have to train this many people, or you have to have some special activities that will benefit the government. That's a different thing.
Right.
But if you start making this institute a completely different body, then what happens to the current institute? That's very important.
Right.
And so this properties is one very important thing. There are a few others, but these two comes in my mind, but because these are the two major legal issues.
Right. But the central government can just, declare a state-registered society as dissolved.
No. As
It
far as
cannot?
I know, I am not a lawyer.
Sure.
Only a lawyer can tell these things clearly. But
Sure.
my understanding after some small discussion with the legal expert is that it cannot be, because see, dismantling a society has certain procedures
Right.
laid down in the Societies Registration Act.
Right.
And then how, in the event a society is dismantled, what happens to the property owned by that society, that is also laid down there.
Right.
And one has to follow that. And if you look at the bill, those issues are just not addressed. That's why I think that this is very strange. I mean, whoever has drafted it,
Right.
or whoever is behind this bill,
Sure.
I mean, in my opinion, is doing a great damage to the government.
Right. Right.
It's definitely doing a great damage to the institute, but doing a greater damage to the government.
Right. 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 So, I mean,
Also, Sanjay, there are definite center-state demarcation.
right.
So,
Right.
so dissolving a state formed society,
Right.
gets into problems there also. So,
Right.
so that can be challenged, at any court.
Right. Right. So the state list, the central list, and the concurrent list, right? So
This society is registered under West Bengal Society Registration Act. One has
Right.
to keep that in mind.
right. So this is in some way undermining the federal, structure of governance within the country as well. It
Absolutely.
seems. Okay.
But it has always been. It has always been. So you cannot dissolve a state government, for example.
Right.
The center cannot. Yeah. So it has always been the case
Right.
that So this and that's because of a diverse country. We are not like the USA where it's we are really far more
Federal.
what? Yeah. And that's important.
Right.
And that's what keeps us together. Because otherwise, one language can be imposed on the entire country.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and that cannot.
Yes, absolutely. So decentralization of power through the federal structure is quite unique within India, and like these societies are autonomous bodies and they function by themselves, and others cannot really impose their own laws on these societies. Is one such avenue where this this federal structure, the decentralized form of this federal structure, is perhaps exercised very strongly. And if
but coming back to ISI, for example, the decentralization within ISI was something which the review committees talk about, because Delhi, Bangalore are really far too dependent on Calcutta, okay, which is supposed to be the headquarters. So in that sense, so the review committee also talked about that. So what Probal was saying is that yes, we must need our own reforms. We do need our own reforms.
Right.
Okay, so that is definitely unquestionable. We need to reform ourselves.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. But doing reform does not mean changing the act. You cannot equate the two things.
Yeah. You don't throw the baby with the bathwater.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. On the question of, being headquarters, Kolkata has been the headquarter, like it was the ISI Society or even the 1959 Act. They were all registered bodies or institutions in Kolkata or erstwhile Calcutta. Do you think, either of you, that this particular bill indicates that Kolkata will no more be the headquarter? It will be moved away. The headquarter will be moved away into another city or something like that.
Sanjay, technically, it's not the headquarters. Nowhere
Sure.
is it written that it's a
Sure.
headquarters.
Sure. Yes.
The practice is the director sits there.
Right.
It's for a little while.
One institute with different arms, different places.
Right.
So that entire thing about whether there'll be, it will be broken up into three, that's a bit unclear in the bill.
Right.
I don't know from what my reading is. I don't know whether
it's not clear to me either.
Sure.
Yeah.
In
But
fact,
it is-
that is another major weakness of this bill. Okay?
Right.
It has left a lot of confusions about what will happen to these different centers, the way for example, think about a course or a degree. Okay. A person gets a degree from Indian Statistical Institute. A
Right.
person doesn't get a degree from Indian Statistical Institute, Bangalore.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Even if the person is doing all his courses in Bangalore.
Right.
So all these courses are under one academic
umbrella.
council,
Right.
one umbrella, and they get degree from the Indian Statistical Institute.
Right.
And you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And this bill has created a lot of small issues here and there
Right.
that the dean pointed out during the course of his discussion with the government,
Right.
that it's not clear if this bill is implemented, what will happen to that structure.
Right.
No, for example, Sanjay, if I have a student who I think will benefit from spending 3 months with Probal in Calcutta,
Right.
it was really very easy.
Right.
That's simple. The person has to buy a ticket and come to Calcutta. That's all.
Yes.
Yeah.
And will be given a room in the hostel.
Yeah, but those are
Work out.
those are the nitty-gritties of it. Okay, he or she needs one. But so we don't know about what this bill envisages. So
Right.
about
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is perhaps.
So
Sorry, please go ahead, Professor.
and so this over. Of course, we are three different centers. We are three different places.
Right.
But there was overall an understanding of each other's work.
Right.
And it maybe there's some other colleague in IIT. This
Right.
across the street from me in Delhi.
Right.
It'll be far more difficult for me to get my student to go there
Right.
than for him or her to go to Probal in Calcutta.
Absolutely.
So that, and those were minor, little freedoms which we had. And if these are questioned, then it becomes tough for us and also far worse for our students.
Sure. And this is perhaps a good time to discuss the difference of the ISI and its different centers, with perhaps, say, the IITs, where, IIT Kharagpur is perhaps a completely different institute if we compare it with IIT Delhi or IIT Chennai.
Yeah, they are different institutions and
Right.
different governing bodies and directors.
Right. So ISI different centers are still the same institute, just
It's
with
one
different
institute.
centers.
It's
Yes.
one institute under one governing body and one
Sure.
director.
Sure. So the attempt seems to be to make it somewhat like an IIT, like where
That's the problem. They are
it's not
just trying to copy that thing from there without realizing the consequences.
right.
Also, I don't know what they envisage. Whether, as you said,
It's not clear what
I mean,
they are up to.
So I also don't agree with Probal that they are copying, because if you copy, then take it lock, stock, and barrel. But if you just take one part here, one part here, one part there, then what you get is just a khichdi, as they say.
Sure. I would like to come to the discussion of dissolution, a potential dissolution of the society is one issue, but what it is getting converted to, at least like the language says, it is going to be a statutory body corporate.
Right.
So what
as the language.
Yes. So what exactly does this entail? Like, what exactly does a statutory body corporate mean in as an academic institution? So first of all, can we start with some examples of statutory body
I
corporates
don't
within
know
area?
really, because I'm not familiar with that. So I don't know. Whether Professor Rahul Roy can say something about.
I also don't know because
I don't know.
So the
See, somehow we have grown up in ISI and we know that structure, and the other institutions we see are very, in many ways, unlike ours. Okay,
Sure.
so I don't know what is meant by the statutory body.
So the statutory body corporate, except for the last word corporate, we were always a statutory body. In my on my first yeah on my first passport after I became a professor here, my profession was given a statutory body worker. This is exactly because they didn't know. So I was a statutory body worker. Okay, however bad it sounds, but now it's a corporate.
Right.
So I really don't have any idea about this, but because of after retirement, I moved into another place, which is a public-private institute,
Sure.
where they collect a lot of fees.
Right.
Okay, so the government had given them an initial corpus grant and land and everything to build the buildings.
Right.
And over a certain period of time, they are supposed to return the money.
Right.
And thereby, it becomes like a corporate structure.
Right.
No, I don't know whether it means this. I'm just speculating.
Right.
I'm just speculating.
Right.
Corporate means that, you generate your own funds in some sense.
Right.
Do they mean that? Okay. And do they mean that, but if it is a corporate structure like that, then a corporate doesn't let, somebody from top decide, its shareholders decide who's the director, etc.
Right.
Now, if we are a corporate like that, is the government our shareholder?
Right.
I don't understand. I really don't understand what the word corporate is doing in this.
Right. So as far as I know, I don't think there is any institute in India which is working as a statutory body corporate at the moment. I think there are.
I'm not sure about that, but I
Sure.
don't know.
Okay. Yes.
I also don't know.
Me neither. So I think some examples of statutory body corporates would be the RBI, the SBI. So these are essentially statutory body corporates. But an academic institution working as a statutory body corporate, I don't know either.
I don't
if
know.
there's any.
Maybe there are, but I don't know.
Right. Okay. So coming to the point of the shareholders or the stakeholders, let's call them. So there is in the new bill, there is this question of self-sustainability, or self-reliance in terms of the funding that the institute gets. So the institute at the moment, it gets funding, as both of you mentioned, from the government. And that money is what sustains the activities of the institute, including the teaching and research. The moment we try to start thinking about self-sustenance, then one thing, perhaps two things. The first is, like, how will it impact the current teaching that goes on in the institute? The other is, how will it impact research? If both of you can kind of give your opinions, like what does it mean to have a body corporate teaching students and a body corporate conducting research?
I don't know what that means. Body corporate conducting research. Okay. And are we going to be something like the research and development wing of a pharmaceutical company or what? I don't know. Okay.
So what you're alluding to, Professor Choudhury, is every research will be required to produce something which can then feed into some kind of profit.
True. That is always true. But
No,
in a pharmaceutical company, it's a different thing.
Right.
There I cannot publish my research. There I have to deliver something, but I will have to keep everything secret. I don't know whether they mean something like that or not. Okay.
Right. And it has to generate profit. It has to generate immediate profit. If we don't, if there are fields of research which do not generate immediate profit, then they will perhaps be then closed. Like, they would not be required to, like, they would not be given the funding to continue their activities.
Perhaps, but I don't know. Okay, because all
Sure.
these things are very hazy
Speculative.
to me.
Sure,
It's
sure.
very hazy to me.
So
But I think I want to add something. Okay, see, when we were students, all the courses that ISI was running, they were free. The students, for some courses, the students used to get scholarships.
Right.
And now we run some courses for which we do charge fees. There are some online courses we run. There are some hybrid mode courses that we run where we charge fees. So they coexist right now.
Right.
Also, when I joined here as a faculty and I was organizing conferences, we didn't charge any registration fee from the participants. But these days we do charge registration fees to support the cost. And so there are a lot of changes that has happened in terms of raising fund, not from the government, but maybe from the students or conference participants and such things. So those are going on.
Right.
And I think such things are probably inevitable and it will sort of go on as the time proceeds. Okay. But I don't see any government intervention or a drastic change in the governance structure to enhance such activities or such things.
Sure. So what you're trying to say is, even if the institute has to become more self-reliant, it could be done without changing this, the council structure to board of
right
governors.
Now, it's probably very difficult to sort of perceive how the entire expenditure for the institute can be raised from non-government sources like the IIM is doing. Then we probably have to change we have to increase the number of students by a large amount, and I don't think we have even resources for that. Okay, and also we have to charge much more fees. Okay, so full financial independence, I don't think it is possible anytime in near future. But
Sure.
Why it has to be like that? I mean, that I don't think is even necessary. Okay, because what we are producing, is it something not of any use to the nation? Let's try to discuss that first. Okay,
Sure.
let the government tell that, okay, you close down all your academic programs and let's see what is the public reaction to that. Okay,
Sure.
then I think we can debate about that. Okay, but of course, I think we are generating revenues through some things and through various channels, and we will continue to do that. Maybe that is a small part of our total budget, but it will probably increase over time.
Right, right.
For example, a lot of our faculty generate funds through consultation.
Right.
So now we have definite consultation rules. A part of the money that they get as consultation fee goes to the
Institute.
and
Right.
that adds to the budget of the institute.
Right. So, Professor Roy, on the question of student fees, as Professor Choudhury mentioned.
Yeah. No. So because I want to talk about many things:
Sure.
the research, the teaching, as well as what Probal was alluding to about what's the government's role in this nation building or good.
Right.
First of all, research. If we see throughout the world, in America, over the last 30, 40 years, the amount of money coming from NSF has gone down. The money coming from defense is going up.
Right.
That really leads to focused research and not for research for the sake of research, for developing something which may have an industrial application or technological thing 30 years later. For example, there's a dyadic numbers, which Gauss did, it came to cryptography 300 years later,
Sure.
right? So you don't know when it'll come. And in India also, what is happening, the little amount of money which we had is now being channeled into big projects.
Right.
So if I were to just ask for a 5 lakh rupee grant, it will be far more difficult to get it than if I were to ask for a 5 crore rupee grant and put in the words of artificial intelligence and everything. Okay. So first of all, in that sense, the research is suffering.
Right.
It is suffering. It's not that, and it has been over a period of time, not just over the last 20, 30 years.
Right.
This has been the case. Giving money to people who have, rather than trying to develop a smaller Meerut university, a little lab there.
Right.
That's my point about research.
Right.
About teaching. Well, they tried to increase fees in Delhi University, JNU. In JNU, there was a fierce backlash. Delhi University, they succeeded a bit. Then they got in various other things like sports development fees. So the fees are kept constant, and there are various other things which are added and gets money. Well, about ISI, our flagship programs, we paid students to study.
Yes.
And what is the outcome of this? We got students from literally refugee camps, who were good students who came. In my class, I had one such example. Okay. So we got, and even now, if amongst this is unfortunate about the middle class Indians, the middle class Indians, they would rather send their children to learn computer science in IITs or in private institutes than do basic science. Or not only basic science, even social humanities or other things. There is this entire skewed vision we have for our children that they should either be doctors or some professional engineers or like this. But, just being a physicist or an English literature specialist, those are professions which the society doesn't consider important. Luckily, it's the lower middle class and the poor who don't have money to send their children to these fancy engineering colleges. We were getting a lot of them. And they were very bright kids by and large.
Many such students who are coming from extremely poor background.
Exactly.
And so I'll just interrupt both of you here. And these students, typically on an average, based on your experience, when they do pass, do they typically go for like high-paying jobs, where they can earn a lot of money? Or
my classmate who came from this refugee camp went through the Indian Statistical Service thing, and the entire computerization. I don't want to name anybody. The entire computerization of the ports on in India, like Haldia and others, he is responsible for it. He's retired, but he was responsible for doing this job.
So nation building, right?
It's nation building, and also if you think about even now, if you're coming from a poor background, just after your bachelor's or master's, there's a far more pressure on you to start earning, to support your parents and family. Whereas from a middle class, you don't have that pressure. Okay. So now, if ISI becomes just an institute for middle class kids, first of all, we wouldn't attract that kind of talent. Secondly, the middle class kids who cannot get into IITs, they will be the ones coming here. The poor kids, of course, can't even afford to come here, so that this will be completely out of bounds for them. So the class composition, the class in both the senses, in the economic class as well as in the class which we teach, the composition would be completely different and it will be very skewed.
Right. Professor Roy, again, I'll interrupt here and say that this is something which people do argue nowadays, that, why even bother about paying stipends to students, or why keep education free? And one of the arguments is these are people who will typically go for corporate jobs. They'll earn a lot of money. So even if they belong to poor background or a lower middle class background, they will be given loans like anything, especially if they are joining an institute like ISI, they'll be given loans, and they study based on those loans for 5 years, or 2 years, 3 years, whatever kind of course they are doing within ISI.
Sanjay, do you really think a person who comes from a family which doesn't even own a small basti in Calcutta will be given a loan by whatever bank? Do you believe that? I don't. I don't. Because they always have collateral.
Sure.
Okay. Number one. Number two, to answer your second question. Okay, if they go and join a corporate job, they are starting earning money. They are providing taxes, which will provide the money for the next generation of students coming to ISI. So why? So there's nothing wrong about that. And the third thing, why can't we think of education like a hospital? A hospital, a government hospital, you cannot charge money. You should not.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so if any and every patient has to go to private hospitals, then that's a pitiable state of the country.
Right, right, absolutely. I think there's another point which is about the competitive advantage that students from various different classes they have. So students from middle class and upper middle class and people with affluence, what they do afford, they can afford is a certain kind of training, which again requires a lot of money, right? Nowadays, if you look at the student cohorts,
coaching centers.
They go to coaching centers in particular. So people from the poorer backgrounds, they anyway have that competitive disadvantage there, and coaching centers do provide some level of competitive advantage. I know about ISI and its the kind of attempt that is constantly made to make sure that students trained by coaching centers do not have a lot of competitive advantage. But nevertheless,
That's an impossible task. That's
yes,
an impossible task.
right. So the point is, such students who belong to poor or very who do not have that amount of money to invest in the training before they get into their undergraduate courses, they are anyway suffering from that competitive disadvantage. And even if they kind of make way around that kind of competitive disadvantage, if there are student fees, I'm assuming that in some way they do manage to get a loan, which, as Professor Roy correctly argued, will be very difficult for people who cannot provide, collateral assurances. So for them, then the course at ISI becomes essentially the last higher education that they can have, because after that, the moment they pass, they will have to join a high-paying job to repay that loan. So for such students to get into an even higher education program, for example, to do a PhD will become impossible. Is that correct? Or am I just guessing in a very wrong
It
direction?
will become next to impossible for them.
For them to do a PhD, is it?
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Or they'll start late, 5 years.
The American universities one day decide that they will not give any fellowship to the students. I don't think most of the Indians will be able to go there. It will probably be only the big industrialists who will be able to send their sons and daughters there, but not for people like us.
Just to reiterate that this bill, if it actually ensures that students will have to pay fee, and that is how we will make sure that ISI becomes self-sustaining to some extent, then it will be very, very discriminatory.
That is a dream that will never come true.
Yes,
I don't
it is
think we'll ever
impossible.
get so many students with so many fees.
It's
It's just a myth they are doing about.
Yeah, so just do some back of the envelope calculations. Let's say we have around 300 faculty. Let's suppose each one of them earn 2 lakhs a month.
On an average.
On an average, okay. That's 24 multiplied by 300. Do you think we can generate that much by teaching even 100 students every year? Even 100 students a year?
So
That's what I was telling. We can never become IIMs.
So that brings me to another question. So perhaps there is some kind of a plan to reduce the faculty number, or to increase the student numbers so much, as I think both of you are trying to say, that it'll eventually become a teaching institute. So increase the student number so much that the research component.
So many students will come to a statistical institute. You have
Exactly.
It's not a management institute or an engineering institute.
Sure.
See, and the second thing is that forget the number of students. Why should they come here? We have been steadily increasing the number of students, by the way.
Yeah.
We
are gradually increasing that, and that is normal. Okay.
Yeah, and we
happening at a normal pace.
Yeah, we do realize that producing just 25 or 50 graduates every year is we can actually do more. We do realize that, But it has to, it cannot be just in one go, because we don't have a classroom which will hold 100 students.
Right.
Okay, it cannot be in one go. So we have been, in this matter about the increasing number of students. Actually, the ISI faculty has always thought about this, that we are underutilized. There is a bit of understanding of that. Okay, but cutting down faculty or increasing the number of students, and at what cost? These are the things which the government, of course, did not even think about. I don't think they know what they want to do about the students, whether they want to increase and make it a completely, for 500 students every year, in which case we need an auditorium to hold 500 students, which we don't. Okay. So all these things, this bill, as Probal has said, I don't think anybody gave it more than a moment of thought in writing this. It is just it's written in a bureaucracy's language and has nothing more than that.
I had another question regarding, and this is, it kind of extends the discussion that we are having now. With the academic council changing, however it is going to change, do you think that the ISI admission process is going to change? This is something which I know the professors in ISI, they are very proud of, right?
So this is, now I've reminded what I wanted to say about, so this going back to a previous question of yours about poor students, not getting they don't have the initial capital, capital at birth. What we had till I think a year ago or so, we had interviews for students coming in. Okay. As somebody who's been working for 10, 15 years, you can judge the potential of a person. Okay. And I'm sure Probal will agree. So there may be somebody who did not do that well, but could cross over the cutoff marks and come for the interview. And we did judge the potential, because we have to factor in the background of that student. Okay. We could do that. We did it, all of us. But I think from this year,
they have discontinued interview.
We have discontinued interview.
And that is a decision, that is an internal decision, but I do not like that. That's my personal.
Yeah, I also don't agree with it. But,
there are a lot of things that have been debated, and it's like my view is always not the view of the other people inside the institute. So there are such things.
Exactly. And earlier when we were students actually got train fare to come for the interview. Now that has been stopped, and now interviews have been stopped. Yeah. So, so there was...
I will tell you something about these online courses that we are running. Okay. It's nice in one way that we are able to reach out to all over the world, and we are offering our expertise to them. But then I will tell you a serious problem with that. Many of these students will eventually expect a recommendation letter from. Now, I am very reluctant to write a recommendation letter about something whom I have never met. I just see a small window in my computer screen once every week. So all these courses, it's like my video recorded lecture is uploaded. They see that. They do online quizzes and all these things. Only once in a week, there is a live interaction, online live interaction. Okay. Now, there also, I think, I see all these small boxes, and somebody asks a question and I answer. That, I think, is a very inadequate information for me when somebody asks for a recommendation for a job. So I have apologized and I have declined, but that's not fair for the student.
Absolutely.
Because I don't know for whom I am writing it.
Absolutely.
And so I think there are a lot of issues here.
So I didn't know that the interview process has been kind of removed
for our undergraduate, some of our undergraduate courses. That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So was this cost cutting?
No, I think there are many issues there, because it's like as you increase the number of, interview is something that is not there in any other institute.
Right.
As you increase the number of students, The number of days the faculty has to spend for interview, that increases. So now what we are trying to do now is that we are trying to grade more answer scripts for the short answer type questions,
Right.
and then prepare a list like that. Okay, so but giving away the interview is something that I personally do not like. But that's my
Yeah,
personal.
you are not allowed
There
to
is a
judge.
decision in our institute, and I respect that.
Sure, sure. So, do you think that with the entire, I'm sorry, with the entire conversation of becoming more self-reliant, the institute will think of cost cutting as well in terms of the admission process? Say, for example, if the IITs can take people in via a single exam, why is that exam not sufficient for ISI? Like, what exactly is ISI?
There have been discussion in this direction also.
Sure.
And it's like, see, right now we have, for example, our research courses. We have our own test, and also that UGC, CSI and NET, we are admit to that also. Okay?
Also through
So
revamped.
those are discussion. See, I mean, it's like, I would say something like this, that if you start using IIT entrance test, then you will feel the need for our interview even more. Because there, I think the people will be trained in the coaching centers who will do very better, much better than other students. Okay? And so many people will lose out because they cannot afford the tuition fees for the coaching centers.
So one thing is affordability. Sorry,
Yes,
Professor.
again, continuing on that, we will never give up our exams, because that's also money earning.
Yeah, that is. See, because we earn a lot of money from our sale of prospectus and applications.
No,
Right.
I think that is money earning as long as you don't count, like you don't allot you don't evaluate the time given by the faculty members, and you start counting that as money as well, in terms of money as well. If you start counting that in terms of money, then perhaps it will not be very money earning, because then if you take the number of hours
We have
being
not
spent.
started that yet, that kind of counting. So
But
we are usually happy to work for the admission.
Sure. I understand that. I know the amount of passion that professors at ISI have towards the selection process. My point is, if it becomes a body corporate, then the time invested by each and every employee of the institute will start getting connected, like counted in terms of money as well. I don't know whether it will still be a profitable exercise after that. So that is something which I'm doubtful.
It's not going to be a profitable exercise in any way, the way they are planning it.
So this is, I think,
They have a plan.
Sure.
If they have a plan at all.
Sure. So this is something which I think, based on both of your experiences with the institute for so many years, I would like to ask, why do you think ISI, and you both said that you're not happy with the interview process being removed in some of the courses. Why do you think the ISI admission process was so unique? And what exactly did it bring that the IIT admissions or the other institute admission processes did not? Like, what exactly is it, other than, of course, as Professor Roy mentioned, being able to judge the students individually outside of their performance on paper? Like, what is it about the say, for the question paper itself? What is it in the question paper that the faculty members in ISI attempted to do, which was not perhaps there as much in the other in the other entrance exams?
So I think we tried to outguess the coaching system. Okay, number one. Number two, we tried various experiments. I know in one of the master's entrance exam, we really tried to see the question paper in Calcutta University. Okay. The question paper in some other universities. And instead of giving these trick questions, give straightforward questions. Okay.
Sure.
Because the coaching centers basically teach you how to handle trick questions. Right. And so we tried all these experiments.
Right. Which was possible because ISI was autonomous in its academic council, and it could do whatever it wanted to, right?
Number one, and we were also, we also wanted to diminish the roles of these coaching centers and others, because we also don't want students to just memorize some things, come here, and then we are left with students who actually just are performing monkeys.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Parroting certain methods, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's very insightful. Thank you. Do you think there is any kind of thought of changing ISI in ways that will be more compliant to the national education policy of 2020 and the recent curriculum of mathematics, which was proposed and which was quite vehemently opposed by several academics in India and around the world? Do you think that this change into a body corporate will make any such changes, or it could be done anyway without bringing in this bill?
See, Sanjay, till now our academic council was responsible for academics.
Right.
And the advantage of this academic council was, I remember when I returned to ISI in the early 1990s, by the mid 1990s, a senior colleague of ours, very well established, Professor K.R. Parthasarathy, who passed away, he'd asked me, Rahul, why don't you propose a course? A course, something which is very new in the world. Why don't you propose a course? I was not a member of the academic council at that time. That we should do on percolation theory. This was exactly what was told. And I did write down a course and everything and sent it. And I think this ISI was one of the first institutes to have a course on percolation theory in the world. Okay, because our masters, because of our training of bachelor's and master or master at the final level, were equipped to sit in this course and understand.
Right.
No, that's no NEP, NEP. It's we who are deciding, understanding what is happening in the world, what's fashionable research in the world, plus what's research which is necessary to understand fashionable research.
Right.
And we had that liberty. We were doing it regularly in each and every course. I'm just talking about my course. We did it regularly. So we upgraded our syllabus, our education style, our education methods. For example, when I was a student, there was no notion of homework. Now we have regular notions of homeworks, which our students correct, we correct because the number of students are less. So we updated not only our syllabus, also our method of teaching.
Right.
And this is what we learned from all our travels and understanding with people, colleagues all over the world in our discipline. Okay. Right. Whereas if you compare this with the standard universities, there was a stagnation there.
Right.
Okay. Every 10 years, there are huge debates. But, there are teachers who were teaching from those yellowed notes and they didn't want to make a fresh set of notes.
Right.
Okay. So ISI had that advantage. Okay. And this has nothing to do with new education policy because it was the way we perceived education has to be and research and everything to get our students up to date with what's happening in the world, because academics is not just a nation limited. It's for everybody.
Right. Okay. And you could do this because of the academic autonomy that ISI enjoyed, the academic autonomy through its academic council, right?
Oh, okay. Now, exactly. But now the NEP proposes various things which are completely irrelevant, I find. Okay. For example, learning Indian knowledge systems. There may be some good things there. There may be some bad things there. I don't want to get into it. But if you are a historian of science, then you'd want to know it. But we are not creating historians of science.
Right.
Okay. Right. Number one. The NEP, for example, one course which I find lacking, even in ISI, is I think there has to be, what we want to produce are students who not only understand the subject, we want to produce our students who are ethical.
Right.
Well, ethics in academics is something which is being diluted in a lot of ways. So you hear much more about plagiarism, you hear much more about falsified data and all these things.
Right.
We tried to do that, although we didn't have any significant, we tried to do it through our own examples.
Right.
That you cannot do this. You cannot just give me a Google or AI generated document.
Right.
Those things I think are important. Those things I think will come into the academic council in its present form at some point or the other.
Right.
But bringing in outdated courses, what I fear in the academic council, the new setup they have, although there'll be a bureaucrat who's so-called non-voting, the bureaucrat is not just there taking notes, minutes, but the bureaucrat can suggest something and then say that, okay, in NEP we have to teach Indian knowledge system. Okay. Why am I saying this? If you read newspapers in the last couple of weeks, in Delhi University, there is a dropout of students because the first year they learn about all these various things, and part of which is part of the Indian knowledge system, which is now also incorporated in the so-called new syllabus for mathematics.
Right.
And the students are not interested. They didn't get into this program to learn that.
Right.
So there's a dropout, and so this is in November. In November, the colleges are trying to get students to join.
Right.
And their first semestral exam would be a month later. They haven't attended any course.
Right.
Are we so this NEP may, I'm not sure, may tell us to do various things which are completely irrelevant in the courses or anything which we teach.
Right. So when you're saying completely irrelevant, not just within ISI, they would not be relevant for the higher studies that they would be doing. They would not be relevant for the companies that they go and work for, the students. So it seems like even though the scientific foundations of the Indian mathematics or the Indian historical sciences, if they are, even though we can we assume that they are well established, even then they're not used today. So in that sense, they are not relevant. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, just like what the Greek system is not relevant. They didn't have the decimal. Do we now go and teach our students how to write in the Roman numerals? We don't.
Right. Okay, that's a very good example. Yes.
Right. So we don't. We have a decimal which is far more advantageous, and we don't do that.
Right.
Okay. Just like we don't use Ptolemaic methods to study stars, although he had the first traces of trigonometry, but now we use trigonometry proper because it's been developed.
Right.
And it's one of the things which have been developed in India also a lot. But of course, we throw away, as Alberioni said, we don't know how to differentiate between pearls and garbage.
Right. So you're saying that science has outgrown several of its predecessors, whether they are Indian predecessors or they are predecessors from around the world. So science has outgrown them, but this seems like an attempt to hold us back into those those older methods, which are perhaps not relevant today. That is that the summary?
I study history of science also. I think it's important that we recognize it. So the Maclaurin series and everything. I think we have a remark that there was in India also, there were these things in the Kerala School of Math. We have a remark, but making it into a full course, I don't think it's worth it. But of course, we have to remember.
Right.
But there's also another big thing. A name which is attributed to a theorem is never actually the correct name. It's a well-known law. I forget the name of the law. Okay, so we do not. Sorry?
It's called the law of economy.
Okay, exactly. So Probal knows the name. Okay. So anyway, as a joke, of course, that means that my theorems were actually discovered by somebody else before, probably. But so finally the names, of course, are there, but people forget. I think my student wouldn't even know who Kolmogorov is, but would still call it Kolmogorov Zero.
Right.
Okay. So the history of science is important, but it's a discipline by itself.
Right.
It's a discipline, and just because I'm a mathematician, I cannot say I'm a master. It requires a completely different method of teaching, understanding, and things. So it's a very important discipline in the world. It's very important.
Right. And,
So-
and
And I think we trivialize it by putting it in this fashion. We're really trivializing.
detaching the Indian history of science from the rest of the world, just to focus on that also seems quite, myopic. I mean, it seems like...
It was the Hitlerian idea, everything originated in Greece. Instead of saying that there were people all over the world
Right.
doing things.
Right.
Okay, so this entire monogenesis of knowledge
Right.
is something we moved out from, in the last 40, 50 years. Bernal and others have written a lot about this. We just moved out of that. Pythagoras theorem is some theorem. If you are just playing football and if you want to mark rectangles, Pythagoras theorem would come to you practically immediately how to do a rectangle. And so, Pythagoras theorem has been developed in various civilizations independently.
Sure.
Now, does that mean that we are the owners of Pythagoras? Of course not.
Sure. I think you wrote an article in Shanghai about this particular point, right? About Pythagoras theorem.
Yeah, in resonance. Yeah, and various other things, not only this.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So I think so. The NEP would downplay our contribution in the knowledge system of the world.
Right.
So whenever I pick up a telephone, I don't say thank you, Edison, do I?
We don't. Yes, of course not. Okay. Thank you so much, Professor Roy.
I just want to add one or two comments
Please.
what Rahul Roy has said.
Please.
I had a similar experience. See, I came back to India after studying at Berkeley and spending a year and a half at Madison at the end of 90, almost 91. And after I came back, one of my senior colleagues suggested exactly the same thing. He asked me to propose a course based on my PhD research. And he said that maybe some of our MStat students can take that as a special course. So, it's not unique to what happened to Rahul. It's a very common practice there.
Yes.
Okay, so
Exactly.
we off and on we propose courses like that. And then it's like, in addition to regular, maybe 2-year, 3-year revision of our curriculum, we always make changes in our courses. For example, there is a very big course at the end of 3rd year in our bachelor's program, which is called Statistics Comprehensive. And that course has evolved. Like when we taught it, we brought in a lot of different things there. Like every individual student will do a project.
Right.
Then the entire class will do a big project.
Right.
So those things were not there when we were students.
Sure.
Okay. It's like when we were student, we had this big Russian computer where you have to type things using the punch card, and then it will probably take 3 days before your code starts running, be error free. And so there was no question of doing any big data analytics. But when we came back, there was a VAX. So it was much better. And then it changed and improved day by day. Okay. So I don't think any institute like ours, they need anything like NEP to improve their curriculum. That's my first point. Okay. Secondly, there are a lot of things like, India is a country with a very diverse community of people and with many views. Okay. So on this latest mathematics curriculum, I have seen a lot of letters that are going on with protest. Okay. Now, I want to say something here. Okay, so those letters are raising a lot of very significant and important points, no doubt about that.
Sure.
Okay, but some of the views there, I don't like that. But it doesn't matter to me, because when I will be teaching in my class, I will do it in my own way, and I will make sure that my students learn the best possible thing that I can teach them.
Absolutely.
For example, I'll say, like some of the letters that came to me, they were criticizing introduction of mechanics and such things, and I personally like that very much. I thought having mechanics as a part of mathematics is some great thing that I had when I was in high school. Okay, and that was one of my favorite subjects. Okay, but that was criticized. But that's their view. But when I will be teaching maybe statistics, the problem, I will definitely use examples from mechanics for them. Okay? So, I mean, this academic freedom given to a good teacher is what is important.
Exactly.
So think
I agree,
that,
sir.
I mean, you will tell the teachers how to teach, then you are going to mess up the whole things.
Sure.
Yeah, my research focuses on mathematical physics. Questions coming from mathematical physics. And, well, we were never taught physics or mathematical physics, but you learn over time, and that's it. And I think that's exactly what Probal is saying. Leave it to the people who are doing it.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
And who have been doing it well.
Sure. Absolutely. So, I mean, both of you mentioned about introducing new courses in the master's level. ISI, I think, also has
in undergraduate level. I mentioned on master's level, but that statistics comprehensive is an undergraduate course that we have modified it every year, almost.
Sure.
Based on our experience.
So the whole thing is modifying our syllabus. We
Right.
did it continuously. Yeah.
Right. But faculty members in ISI, they also propose research courses, right? Like, again, that is something
That's completely a free activity. Okay, so faculty members can propose any research course. So it will be circulated by email or something, and then some students enroll for it. And
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate to attend some of those very unique courses, one out of which was research methodology, which I think is a very unique course. I have not seen it being taught in many other places. It was proposed by Professor Prabal Choudhury, and it was a very nice course. We attended it. It was very useful. In terms of the syllabus change and all of that, this autonomy that ISI has, the moment this NEP and this kind of regularization of academia and its curriculum is being attempted, it feels like school going children all wearing the same uniform. Or academics all wearing the same uniform, and all of them following a certain method.
Can I say something here?
Yes, please.
This reminds me of it reminds me of a fascinating remark by an educationist who said that where do you have roll calls? It's only in jail and in schools.
Yeah.
It's very important. I mean, you look at this structure, all these students sitting in different rows and columns, the roll call, it's like a jail.
Yes, absolutely. This uniformity, attempt to homogenize everything, whether through language, whether through curricula, this is very, very scary. There's no doubt there.
By the way, Sanjay, in the current UGC thing, because I've been to various universities also,
Sure.
research methodology is a compulsory course.
Okay.
Not only in ISI,
Sure.
except that the research methodology in ISI is done by people who do research. Okay, the other universities, it's a course which they don't know how to handle. Okay, so they have.
It's like a course in environmental science taught by people who have no idea about environmental science.
And also, there's also of library, how to dig out references in the library. Half the universities don't have any library. So, what do you mean digging out information from the library? So, this research methodology course I think is very well thought of, but it should be not at universities where they're not doing research.
Sure.
There are, of course, they are giving PhDs, but we know the difference. Okay. We were never taught any research methodology course, Probal or I. But somehow we learned on the way.
Right.
Okay. And whether good or bad or ugly, we did something. Okay. And that's why I actually wanted to bring in a course on ethics rather than research methodology, because there are many things which you learn mm, during your career,
Right.
but not everything is taught to you.
Right.
Okay. And but what is not taught, which I have real problems is ethics. From ISI also, there have been many unethical professors who've come out, who have been there, and from the rest of the world.
No,
So
this unethical practice is rampant these days in science. Okay.
exactly.
I mean, if you just try to read in the net how many papers are getting retracted, how many papers written by Nobel laureates are getting retracted,
Retracted,
it is mind-boggling. Okay. After that, you can only start disrespecting science. Don't blame the politicians. I mean, even the scientists are responsible for the disrespect they are generating for science. Okay. So
Right.
this ethics is a very important thing. Definitely.
Right. I mean, since we are discussing ethics, there's another point where that there are gray lines or blurred lines where they may not be directly unethical, but science has over the period of time, at least the few years that I've seen research happening around the world, has moved towards practices, general practices, which are generally well accepted that these are norms, these are practices which are I find very very alarming. One out of which is publish or perish. Like, people would want to publish whatever, I mean, a half baked idea, something which is not even
This is what happens when you do corporatization of academics.
so.
And
Because you want to
when
deliver
there's
and
so
sell
much
quickly.
and when there's so much money poured into this,
Right.
in the 1990s, Probal can tell you, I know. If you wanted to go to a conference, the best we got was a second class AC train fare,
Exactly.
Sure.
right? And
And
we
we were
did our
profiting with that money. I don't think we complained at that.
yeah, and so we did our research in the way we did. Just not the fact that I can fly to Calcutta. What extra thing does it get me? Nothing.
Right.
Okay, and there's so much money put into this. Whenever there's money, there's unethical practices.
Right.
Money is the cause of lots of things in the world.
Right, absolutely. So, I mean, even though we are talking about the ISI Bill 2025, I think this is a broader global issue which both of you have raised, where uh, academia in general is getting driven by money. In the US, certainly in the UK, certainly in Europe, promotions happen to people who can bring in money. If
Exactly.
if people cannot get money from government funds or from the industry, then you don't get promoted. I've seen people in my university, they've
Oh,
retired.
absolutely. I mean, it is true in not only abroad. I mean, even in IITs, it is true. I know.
Which
Getting
is
grant is very important for getting
Yes.
promotion.
Right.
Also, if it's Manjula, if you really, I may be wrong here. There was real, very big fundamental work done in ISI, in mathematics and probability and other things in the early 60s and 70s by a group of people. Well, there was a very small group at that time,
Right.
and I don't think over the last 50 years we could repeat that. I don't know whether Probal would agree with me or not, but we don't have
I think he's
that
talking
kind
about
of
the gang of
fundamental.
four, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it
The
is
gang of
Varadan, Varadarajan, KRP, and Rangada. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think we can repeat that.
Yeah, and that was they didn't probably also have second class AC. They had to probably travel on buses. Okay, so
Same thing. I mean, it's like I have heard stories from one of my teacher, which goes like this: that Bibasu, C.R. Rao, and Sujit Mitra were in Calcutta, faculty at that time, teaching students. So the story goes like this: every morning, C.R. Rao will make a conjecture, and if it is true, then by evening, Sujit Mitra will give a proof, and if it is false, by evening, Bibasu will give a counter. That was the culture.
Sure. So let me ask both of you, what exactly was the driving force for people then who did this kind of science?
Driving force for them, it is driving force for the entire society.
Right.
It's like I mean, when I talk to a lot of young students. Okay, for example, those who are doing MStat in Delhi, I talk to them regularly, and they tell me those secrets, who are good teachers and who are bad teachers. So I enjoy talking to them. Okay, so it's like I get surprised. So whenever they have free time, they will engage themselves into some project, engage themselves in. I said, when do you really learn? Okay, if you're always busy doing your computer work on project, if you're doing all these internship, when do you learn? I think I will be scared to do such thing. But these kids enjoy that. Okay. So I think, I don't know, maybe it is the internet, mobile that has created an environment that did not exist in our time. Okay. So we were immune from that.
Yeah, and in the summers, we know we had to play football and not to do internship. That was another important thing. I think, this internship culture.
We were reading newspapers. We were not reading news in the mobile.
Yeah,
That was a very important thing, I think.
I think this internship culture is a very bad culture because people want to do interns. And, right now I don't give recommendation if you're coming just for 2 months of internship. Nobody comes.
I have stopped taking interns, actually.
Yeah, I also, nobody comes to me because I say that. I won't give recommendation just because on the basis of a 2-month course, which I teach. So, this is the entire, not only publish or perish, the thing that I want to be one step ahead of my classmate. Okay, that I think is bad. And that is what I think what is destroying education also. Because earlier we used to all learn together. If I could do some homework problem, the entire class did it.
Right.
Okay. Right. Now I want to keep it to myself so that I can impress my teacher. Right. I don't think that's good.
Right. So learning should be collaborative, and it has stopped being collaborative.
I mean, that was the same thing. I mean, it's like we had a slightly light workload in our first year when we came to BStat. So it's like our Mondays were free, and then on Mondays we will have what is called periodical. Okay, so it was like one mid-semester really now. Okay, so it's like if there is a periodical on a Monday, we were all day scholars. So we'll come to ISI on Saturday and Sunday, sit together, and many faculty like Professor B.V. Rao, they were around. So we'll talk to them and do all the problems together. That's a very common practice in those days.
Sure. So, as we are talking about students, I think globally this is an issue with academics as well. They are more engaged in writing grants than actually learning anything new. Academics don't have time to learn anything new. That's so. This is
that's the most unfortunate thing.
Absolutely.
So it hasn't penetrated.
So I tell them that all of them should retire so that they can get some good work done.
Yeah, so I think we are a bit immune to that because there isn't any money there, so we don't have to write grants.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
In ISI, we are reasonably immune to that as of now.
Right. And this brings me back to the point of becoming a body corporate. So once it becomes a body corporate, all these, these ethos that you're talking about, they seem like very utopic nowadays, where people will sit and learn and think and not try to produce something on their computers, right? The moment it becomes a body corporate, all of this will be gone. It seems like, the practices of generating funds, the practices of getting, bullet points in your CV, that will become such a big norm. I don't think it'll be a place from where we can recover. It will become,
and that's what leads many professors to claim authorship for papers which only their students had done completely. They were not involved in it at all.
Absolutely.
Except writing grants and getting the grant to support that student.
Absolutely.
So do it. Yeah, we are not going there. We are there now.
Right.
We are
right.
in that situation.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, ISI, I would like to believe that many people in ISI are still immune to that. But certainly, in the rest of the world, my experience tells me that like people are have moved into that unethical space where even without contributions, they would have their names in the papers. And that is across disciplines, and which is very, very dangerous. And this brings us to the point of ethics that both of you were stressing on. And it all seems like, the central issue there is this notion of profit out of everything that you do, whether you're studying, whether you're working at an educational organization. It all everything that you do has to have some profit, some kind of immediate goal in mind, where for you to, unless you see that immediate goal, you're essentially not using your time well. So, which is a very dangerous trend. So, Professor Choudhury, the common notion here is that people are not very happy with the bill. That is something which we have seen throughout various social media, outlets. We have seen it in newspapers, like the newspaper articles that are raising concerns about this. So, being at ISI, can you give some idea about what kind of environment, what kind of feedback are you getting from people within ISI, from around the campus, from various other learned societies who might feel threatened by the way this learned society is getting converted into a body corporate?
Yeah, I think, as soon as government sort of opened it up for public discussion, I remember I was getting calls from media who were asking me a lot of questions like you, and I tried to answer them as much as I could. What I could sense from there is that, I think, see, this institute and Mahalanobis's work, it was in some sense a part of Bengal Renaissance. It was connected to this Brahma movement. It was connected with Rabindranath Tagore's legacy. And people have very, very, very strong sentiment about that. So, if you suddenly start calling that learned society a statutory body corporate, the very expression is something that is going to invite adverse reaction from people.
Sure.
Because this is something they sort of worship. And if you are hurting their sentiment, it's almost like that. It's almost at that level.
Sure.
So, reports in the media, you see, that is not focusing so much on the scientific activities of the institute, or whether there are any administrative shortcomings and things like that, or whether it is really an improvement or downgradation. I think what they are talking about, irrespective of the language they are using, what they are talking about is that here is something that is very respectable to them. And it's not clear why you want to change that. They are not convinced that this change is necessary, because their kids are coming to this institute. They are hearing about the activities of this institute. When the institute is having various conferences or other cultural programs and things like that, the common people come and participate.
Right.
So they know what goes inside the institute.
Right.
And they feel that this is sort of an encroachment into something they have enjoyed a lot.
An attack on the legacy, it seems.
An attack on the legacy. Because this institute, being Mahalanobis's creation, where Rabindranath Tagore had a lot of influence, is a part of Bengal Renaissance and the Brahma movement. You have to keep that in mind. Right. So it's like, it's not changing. It's almost like if you try to change Vishwabharati into a different thing, it's almost like that. And Mahalanobis was actually secretary of Vishwabharati for a long time, and he was running this institute and Vishwabharati together.
Right. We have recently seen in the case of Punjab University, where this kind of a backlash from the civil society, from people who care about Punjab University, that backlash has resulted in the reversal of something similar which was attempted on the Punjab University. So
I think government needs to have a definite purpose. It's just that, it's like you want to change whatever is there in my opinion, it's like I was sitting in my computer and suddenly Microsoft will say that they want to upgrade, and for 1 hour I cannot work, and then after that, lot of things have been messed up. This is not what the government should be doing. Okay, government should suddenly not start upgrading things like Microsoft.
That's a very interesting analogy where after the update it becomes unusable.
Yeah, exactly.
Once again, thank you so much, Professor Choudhury and Professor Roy. This was a very engaging, and for me, certainly a very good learning experience. Would you like to, summarize your overall understanding of this whole situation, the bill, and would you like to say something to people in India?
We have to remember, learning is for the sake of learning and not for any other thing. Once we understand that, all these things will be trivial. Probal, that's what I have to say.
I want to say one thing, it's like we have discussed many things, and what we probably have discussed, not explicitly but implicitly, there is, in my opinion, a very significant attitude issue. What is that attitude issue? Okay, here is this institute. It started in 1931. Government of India, when was it born? Okay, maybe 1947. So this institute is at least 16 years older than the government of India. Okay, and we have learned that you should take advice from the elders. Okay, now if you want to improve this institute, try to learn from this institute first. Try to learn its history. Try to learn what are its contributions and what it is lacking now. I'm not saying it's lacking anything. Of course, we should be doing certain things which we are probably not capable of doing now, and we need to do something about it. Okay. But if you have this attitude that I know it all, I will do it, and you just follow me, this is not how you learn or contribute. You need to learn from people, you need to learn from teachers, you need to learn from students. I learn from my students every day.
Absolutely.
So, if the government thinks they know everything, one fine morning they will sit down with their word processor and draft a bill, it's extremely dangerous.
Thank you, Professor Choudhury and Professor Roy, once again for all the time. This was very, very, enlightening for me. As I mentioned, I hope that this discussion is taken in the right spirit with the correct understanding of the issues that you are bringing up, and putting these discussions in the right context, the right historical context, is something which will be done by the government and whoever is behind this bill.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So, thank you.
Thank you very much.